not to drag Valero, but this is very much just we're talking about this out of obligation. Just get us to Masters Week. Let's move
I
on.
know.
Welcome to Center Cup. I am Kyle Muserino here as always with Will Neary and Nick Newmeyer. And not only is it Recap Monday, it is a Recap Monday during Masters Week.
Wow. We're
We
here. We made
we
it.
arrived.
Hello,
So
friends.
hello, friends. So today we'll run through the Augusta Women's National Amateur, which was pretty cool just to see Augusta a little week early. Awesome to just see it on our screens. We'll run through the Valero Texas Open. The LPGA Tour was in Vegas for the Aramco Championship, and then Corn Ferry also the LECOM Suncoast Classic. But let's start with the Augusta National Women's Amateur, where Maria Jose Marin won. Nick, what were your takeaways?
Yeah, I think you hit it first off that, we get to see Augusta a week before the tournament. I think for everybody, this was, I know me personally, we were having company over later that night. And so, it was kind of just like that run around, everybody clean, everybody like if you stand still for 1 second, it's like, what are you doing standing still? And we had Augusta on the TV and like anytime my dad or my brother and I were in the room, it was like just a moth to a flame. Like we just stood in front of the TV and we just wouldn't move. I think it's an incredible tournament year in, year out. I think it makes for some really good finishes as we've seen this year. Obviously, you said Maria Jose Marin from Arkansas won the tournament. She played really well to start with a 65 and a 69 at Champions Retreat. Uh, and then set herself up well for success on Sunday. But I think the story behind her win, obviously I don't want to, we can return to her. I don't want to detract too much from her win, but obviously the big storyline of the event was asterisk tally. I think going into the event, she was very well hyped. Just Stanford verbal commit, 17 years old, I believe, and
Mhm.
was supposed to have Miles Russell on the caddy, but he unfortunately bailed to go play on the Corn Ferry. But
How
she was
dare
one of
he?
the favorites heading into the week, and she was just dialed. Like she was not. I think it was funny. I think Gabby Herzig from the Athletics, she said on hole 11
Yeah, it
that
was Gabby's fault for
it
sure.
was, yeah, like she
Yeah.
has not made a bogey since like hole 8 of the final round of last year's
What are you
ANWA. And
doing?
then
Wait till
And they
after the
also,
fact.
literally,
yeah, I was just gonna say on the TV too, on the graphic, as she's walking down 11, they have a thing that pops up that like has never made a bogey on the back nine at Augusta.
I
It's just
mean,
like,
she
oh
never had a
no.
chance.
Yeah, it
right,
was it was a nightmare.
immediately set up for failure. And so she made the bogey on 11, steps up to the 12th, and my God, was this painful. So
Oh,
her first shot was long, which became a bit of a pattern for her on the back nine. I think she was just airmailing a lot of greens. I don't know if it was distance control. I don't know if it was the wind. I don't really know what the case was
adrenaline too,
there.
I'm sure.
Yeah, that definitely was a part of it. So she goes long off the tee into the bunker. I think she had mentioned after the round she was lucky to not be in the bushes. She thought it was
Yeah,
going
it came
straight there.
down. Yeah.
Right. And so her first shot, she hits out of the bunker and it rolls. And like the second it hit the green, I knew that ball was wet. Like it was just rolling and rolling, goes right back into the water. And then she drops back in the bunker, hits pretty much the same exact shot, and then has to drop on the other side. Um, and then she was able to get up and down from there, which was pretty impressive from her, but fell out of the lead with a quadruple seven a la Jordan Spieth. And it
Yeah.
was it was one of those where I was sick to my stomach watching. Like I just had like this pit in my stomach, and yet I could not turn away from the TV. Like it was horrible.
It's like
I mean,
watching a
I
car
think,
crash.
yeah, it was a car crash. I mean, I think the first bunker shot, obviously, you're like, oh no. But to drop, she had obviously after that, after it goes in the water, she has the opportunity to either drop in the bunker or go back across Rays Creek, which is what she did after the second water
Right.
ball. but you can go back across Rays Creek and drop over there and give yourself a clean lie. It seemed like it was to me that was like the most like uh-oh, like this is like youth, this is an experience, this is and she has experience, but like this is just not understanding the gravity of the scenario or not being able to like properly remove yourself from the anger of just hitting a water ball and then she's 17. Like I don't blame her, but they did a good job of talking about it on the broadcast that like you drop into a bunker, you bury the ball. Like you don't get a good lie when you drop
Right.
straight from your knee into the bunker. Like you saw it. I mean, it didn't like go it wasn't like a fried egg, but it went, a little like I don't know, a quarter inch of the ball is under the sand, and that makes it even harder to get spin, which is she's
Mm,
chipping from behind 12 green where it's sloping away from her, and then if it runs off the green, it's in the water. Like there's nothing past the pin that's going to hold it. So if you're putting yourself in a position to not be able to get spin, that just it makes the likelihood of doing that same shot again, which she ended up doing, hitting it over the green into the water again. It makes the likelihood of that happening like a couple, like 2x, 3x, like just by putting yourself in that situation. So I was, and obviously, like, of course, if she drops and splashes it out and manages to get spin on it and nestles it close, like, hindsight's 2020. So, of course, in the moment, there was a lot more to weigh. But it ended up being something that haunted her. I mean, obviously, I don't think, a double bogey versus a quadruple bogey was the deciding factor of this tournament.
Right.
Um, but at
didn't
the end of
help.
the day, like, yeah, it didn't help. And she just did not put herself in position to recover properly from that first water ball by putting herself back in the exact same bunker with a worse lie, chipping downhill with no spin possible, pretty much.
And I think at the end of the day, like you mentioned, she's 17 years old. She is going to be playing so many more of these
She will be
tournaments.
fine. She will be very
And
fine.
I think I was really proud of the way she handled herself after the round. I think she spoke to the media like for I think the whole video was like 8 minutes straight. She talked to the media just through tears. And she was very adamant about the support that she was given throughout the week. Obviously she had her family was right there with her the entire time. She had like as soon as she stepped off the green, she had Annika Sorenstam giving her support. Bryson DeChambeau pulled her aside and offered some words of wisdom there, which I thought was a really nice touch. And she also, I think she was very adamant about, I think the one thing she kept repeating over and over again was, this does not define who I am. And, I think that's the best. I feel like some of the best athletes in the world have the great ability to sort of detach themselves from the tournament. I forget who said it, but I think someone said, okay, I lost, but tomorrow I will wake up and I will be the same person as I was when I woke up this morning. And, being able to detach from the round and just sort of separate, like, you are not your failures in this case. I think obviously it hurt. Like I'm not going to say it didn't, but I think just seeing how she was able to rebound mentally and cause like she didn't, I wouldn't say she was even checked out either. Like watching, I think she was able to, yeah, I think distance control became an issue, but I think she did manage to get a birdie on the back nine as well,
Hmm.
I thought. And so
Yeah.
just seeing how she was able to respond. Obviously, I think she just put herself too far back and it was too little too late, but I think she didn't necessarily deject and just get into this ball that a lot of people probably would. So I was very, very happy with the way she responded. But sort of getting back to the top, because of her collapse,
Wait, Nick,
that,
I have one quick question I want to.
yes, go for
Do
it.
we is Bryson a good guy? It seems
I,
like
I really
has he
think he
come all the
is.
way back?
I mean,
I
it
kind
has
of
been a PR tour for the ages, what he's been able to do.
like I think if he had done what he did and taken Astro's tally aside after this type of round 2 years ago, I think I would have very, very quickly been like, okay, this is for show, this is for clicks, this is for whatever. It kind of feels a little bit genuine. Like I kind of think I don't know if I'm all the way back, but I'm coming back around. And we're not going to do a lot of Masters talk on this, but I'm really excited to see him at Augusta. We'll get more into that on Wednesday, but I'm definitely coming back around on Bryson, and this was like another example of like him being seemingly genuine. I mean, everything you see in the media is so hard to like really discern if it's genuine or for the media. But
Right.
to me, like it seems like he might be all the way back. We might be all the way back in on Bryson.
That yeah, that was really great to see. I think obviously nobody knows what it's like to collapse at Augusta like that. I mean, I'm not gonna say more than
Well,
Bryson. There's
not nobody.
One of our
definitely
favorite.
definitely some
Jordan.
other people that don't but yeah, obviously Bryson, wasn't able to like was probably in a very good position to beat Rory McIlroy last year and then
Mhm.
kind of just took himself out of the running. And so he obviously knows what that feels like. And so I thought it was very, very kind of him to sort of pull her aside and just give her some advice. I thought that was very nice. So should we get back to the top now?
Yeah, we can get back to Maria Jose Marin because it's well deserved to talk about her round. I
Absolutely.
yeah, go for it,
And
Nico.
so after asterisk tally, it came down to Marine and Stanford's Andrea Revuelta, who finished in second. And so when Maria Jose Marin played 12 herself, she came just short of the water. I don't know how it didn't go in, but she was
It had
able to.
no business staying up. That was the Freddie couples in was it 92 or 94, whatever. We just talked about it on Friday, Nick. But like it
Right,
just plunked and it didn't even dig. It was just like there's no grass there, and it's just like sitting. And they said on the broadcast, they were like, if I was her, I would be sprinting to hit my next shot. I was
right,
like, she's like casually putting giving the club back to her caddy. I'm like, oh my God, go hit the ball. Like go
right.
right now. That's going in the water.
And then she didn't know it was happening, but while asterisk tally was kind of going through all that on 12, she made a birdie on 13 and then made a bogey on the 15th. I really disagreed with her shot selection on that one. I don't mean to be the guy on the couch, like, I could hit that, but like she went long off I think she put herself in the trees with her tee shot and then kind of laid up to not a great spot and then just airmailed to the green. And then I personally thought the play was to sort of beat it into the hill and then just kind of let it run up there. I didn't think she had any chance of stopping it in the air, but that's what she elected to do, and it almost went in the water. Like it was definitely running, but it ended up stopping. She did not make the putt, ended up carding a bogey, but then she rebounded with a incredible shot on the 16th hole, um, and then just kept the lead the rest of the way. And
Yeah.
so, all in all, by that point, I think she knew she had the lead and she just absolutely ran with it.
Yeah, I think that's what made, well, to go back to a couple of the shots you just mentioned, I think on 15, I can understand airmailing the green because obviously we talked about adrenaline, but also the one thing she can't do is go in the water because by the time she's
Right.
on 15, she knows she's got this four-shot lead. And she knows she's pretty much playing against her playing partner, Red Vuelta, rather than playing against Asterisk Tally behind her, or it was Mayor Tegrin right behind her as well with Asterisk
Yes.
Tally. So it was really the pairing, the second to last pairing that ended up being, the leaders. But I can understand juicing the green, but that's what makes 15 so interesting. I mean, we saw Rory do it last year, right? I think it was on Saturday. Rory chipped into the water from over 18 or over 15
Mhm.
green, I think.
Yeah.
I'm sure he wasn't the only one to do it. A lot of people have done it over the years, but that brings that into play. The shot on 16 she hit was like just kind of absolute nails. Like it was pretty ridiculous to be honest. I was texting you guys during it while we were watching, and I was like, "There's no way that this doesn't come up way right and way short." Because if I'm in her position at that point, it's a three-shot lead. Because she just came off the bogey. I'm like, I am. There's no chance water is involved here. Like I'm shooting this as far right and as short as I possibly can, and she plays it perfectly, like into that right slope. The ball just feeds down to 4 feet, drains the putt, and that was wraps. I think once that putt dropped, it was very very clear that she was walking away with this win.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just a great, great result for her. Definitely just looked to be in total control. And obviously, you feel for Asterisk Tally, but at the end of the day, Maria Jose Marin absolutely deserved this win as well.
Yeah, back she was the NCAA individual champion, right? Last year, backed
That's
that
right.
up.
Yeah.
So congratulations to her. Go Hogs. Um, yeah, there's a couple other finishes. I mean, we got to shout out Diana Lee, right? Northwestern.
Diana Lee.
Deanna Lee. I'm so apologies, Deanna. We got to shout out Deanna Lee, Northwestern. T19 finish is really impressive. Pretty steady 71,
Mhm.
71, 72 at
In her
Augusta
tournament debut.
in her tournament debut. Yep. And then obviously we talked about this a bit. I think Nick mentioned a lot of it. The Stanford team, just like the powerhouse Stanford team. Um, Couple more missed cuts than maybe expected, but they did have two T4 finishes, a second place finish, and we're including commits and verbal commits. So Nikki O, Astris Tally, Anna Fang are all kind of included in this 8-person Stanford group at this point. But three missed cuts, sure, but two T4s, a second place finish, another top 10 and ninth place out of Paula Martin San Pedro. Pretty good all around. They, like you said, four missed cuts. Sorry, like you said, Nick, they are a powerhouse for sure.
Yeah. And I think the one surprise was probably the one out of all of them that I would have picked to win was Mega Gane, like one of the best players in the NCAA right now. And she missed the cut. She fired after she said last year, she set the course record at Champions Retreat with, I think, a 63 in her first round. This year, she shot a 77 and just completely fired herself out of the tournament on day one. And it's just, for a player of her composure and for her skill set and especially her experience, I think this was like either her, I think her sixth ANWA appearance, and just
That's nuts.
you you don't expect that out of her. I was very pleasantly surprised when I looked at the leaderboard the first time, but as well, I think the number one amateur in the world, Kiara Romero, I think there was a T9 finish for her. And so that was a great way for her to go out as well. I think there were some very good finishes across the board, but I think at the end of the day, not to take away from what any of these wonderful competitors have done, but like Kyle said from the beginning, it's Augusta. Like it's truly the best. I think it doesn't matter who's playing it. If it's on your TV, you're gonna sit down and you're just gonna watch it and be absolutely mesmerized. I thought just seeing the way the course looked, it looked absolutely pure. It looked firm. I thought. I think the green. I don't know. I've seen a lot of people say the greens were running kind of slow, but from what I saw, especially on like the second nine on on Saturday, excuse me, the greens definitely looked like they weren't holding as much. They looked very firm, and so I don't know if that's going to translate to next week. We can obviously get into that later in the week, but I'm very excited for just all of it. I guess I mean that was a lot of fun.
It was so good to see. One thing I didn't realize, to be honest, is that also this was only like the seventh iteration of this event, right? I think 2019 was
Right.
the first year. Just
Yes.
such a smart idea to like Kyle was saying, to just be able to put this on people's screens and like a week before, just get the buzz going a little bit. I mean, the buzz for the Masters starts the day the previous Masters ends, so it never really ends, but the just to get that extra little buzz going, a week in advance rather than waiting for the week itself.
Mhm. And I think, I don't even know if this is a good point, so just play with me on this one, but it just kind of came into my head. It kind of reminded me of the way the WNBA has seen growth over the years. It wasn't through its already existing stars. It was through like the Caitlin Clark, the Angel Reese who just got traded today,
Yeah, no longer
through
Chicago.
exactly like the Cameron Brinks, the Haley Van Litts, the young stars that are not at the professional level yet, but it's through those young stars that the professional level, once they get integrated in, it builds the product up. And so I think this is a great way to get people familiar with these names before they take the next step and join the LPGA tour.
Yeah. And the last point I'll make, I think we should probably get to the Valero shortly, is just like a good kind of wrap up point on what you were just saying, Nick, that speaking of the LPGA Tour, it was reported Gabby Herzig, who has a great story on the Augusta National Women's Amateur. Everybody should go check it out. She also reported that a lot of the participants were talking about how this event was more important for them to win and then like, they'd rather win this than any event on the
Right.
LPGA Tour in their entire career, which says a lot. Obviously, some of that is the magic of it being Augusta, But it is also one of the best fields in women's golf, amateur golf. Like it holds a really, really high position in the global golf ecosystem, more than you might expect for it being a amateur event that isn't like the USM.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that kind of goes back to, I think we've definitely talked about this definitely a few episodes ago, but just talking about sort of the LPGA and what they want to do with their schedule. I think it was the commissioner was talking about getting to some of these courses um, that either the PGA plays on or that are just well-known courses in the golf world. And I think just being able to play, obviously it's the final round at Augusta instead of just all three rounds, but I think just being able to play there is such a way to grow the tournament. It's such a way to grow the game. And I think like you said, they said they would rather win there than on anywhere in the LPGA tour, and I think that really says something.
Yeah, super cool event. Cool to see all the clips that come out from it. Whether it's this tournament itself, you had the drive, chip, and putt going on with the
Hmm.
kiddos, which is also awesome to see.
Did you see that
It's
guy who
just,
was like cross with the cross
Yeah.
grip driver? That
yeah.
was incredible.
It's
Apparently
like,
he's one of like six, and all the kids just do everything cross-handed.
That's so
interesting.
Just
cool.
rocks. And he had the backswing. He had a longer backswing than John Daly. Like was about to hit his
Oh my
other knee,
God,
like wrapping all the way around.
that's
Ridiculous.
incredible.
Yeah, it's
But it,
just smart for the Masters to kind of roll it out a week early just to get people thinking about it before you enter the actual week. I
Hmm.
mean, especially with it being the first major of the year, and it's just awesome to see for sure. Okay, Valero Texas Open recap. This one was kind of got derailed by the weather for sure. JJ Spaun ended up winning, which was out of absolutely nowhere.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think he's, missed half the cuts he's played in this year. So Will, what did you take away from this weekend?
I do. I think you mentioned it, but I do want to talk about the weather on the last 2 days. I think it really there's a lot to talk about, and we'll get to some of the finishes. But to me, the weather was really dictating everything
Yeah.
in the last couple days. I think it was really showing you who was on their game and who was not. And we'll also get to some of those guys who were not because they were maybe the bigger names that you'd expect to be sharper were kind of the ones that were struggling the most in the adverse weather. But obviously Saturday, you get a lot of rain coming in. The rain kind of just sits on top of TPC San Antonio and refuses to leave. They called play. I believe it was around 11 a.m. local time, maybe just a few minutes after. And then it was
yeah, it
kind of
sounds
like,
about
okay,
right.
we're gonna update you at like 12:30 or whatever it was one. And then it was 30 minutes. Every 30 minutes was the rain is still coming down. We're gonna update you in 30 minutes. And then finally at around 5 p.m. they just are like, okay, play suspended for the day. We're going to resume at 7:45 a.m., 7:30 a.m. on Sunday. By the way, I will say kudos to them for getting the entire tournament in. I think a storyline that or question marks were flowing in the social media space about what might happen if we have to push this to Monday, or if for another tournament this would have been pushed to Monday. I think it would have been really hard to push this to Monday with the Masters around the corner, especially considering people who play well here are going to be turning around and going straight to the Masters. A lot of the field is going straight to the Masters. Um, but to get back to the weather, I mean, on Sunday, you still had some rain. They kind of pushed through it, honestly. Obviously, no lightning, no thunder, but a lot of wind. And the wind was a huge factor down the stretch. I mean, the last few holes, I think like 17 and 18 were the perfect example of like how intense the wind was making things, was changing the course, was making things easier, harder. Obviously, 17 on that day. They had the pin all the way front. It's like I think it was playing 308, but it's just over a 300-yard par four. And I mean, like Ludwig's hitting a three wood that lands next to the hole. There was nine eagles on the day and a lot more opportunities. Ludwig painfully lipped out an eagle opportunity on 17. Um, Obviously, JJ Spaun made his eagle on 17 from like 10 feet, just like long right at the pin. But yeah, so 17 is playing really easy with the wind just straight down. Then you turn around and 18, a par five is playing infinitely more difficult. I mean, they were showing graphics of, adjusted for wind. I think it was technically over. 600 yards, but then with wind, they were showing it pushing up towards 700, like playing almost 700 yards. You had guys hitting 6 irons for their third shots into 18, a par five, which is not like 6 irons from like 170 yards, which is just not something you see on the PGA Tour. These par fives are holes that these guys like exploit every single time they play. It's like, a birdie is par essentially on par fives on the PGA Tour. And that's not necessarily true, but when you come down the stretch, that tends to be true at a lot of par fives in the PGA Tour. Obviously, this one's over 600, so do with that what you will. But birdies are, maybe you're saying par is 4.5, but it actually played over par on Sunday. And what was most shocking to me actually is that, so we talked about JJ Spaun, he wins at 22 under. There were four players that had an opportunity to get into a playoff with JJ Spaun just by birdieing the 18th hole, again a par five, which you'd think like, yeah, somebody's going to get into that playoff. The guys to put names to it are Matt Wallace, Michael Kim, Andrew Putnam, and Robert McIntyre. And collectively, they made three pars and a bogey. Andrew Putnam made a bogey to drop into third, or I guess it's T5, I believe, at 15, rather than even give himself the opportunity to make that par. But I mean, like Michael Kim and Andrew Putnam both found the back bunker on that hole in their third shot. They had to hole a bunker shot to try to win. Like it was 18 was playing impossible. Meanwhile, 17 played, I think it was like zero point 0.8 shots under par. It was almost a full shot. It was almost playing like a par three. Um, it was wild to see. I actually liked it. I think I didn't dislike it. It's crazy just watching guys struggle on a par five like that. It's just so rare that you see, Andrew Putnam, I believe, or maybe it was, I know Chandler Phillips did it. I think Andrew Putnam did too, like pulling their approach shot left into almost getting their approach shot into the wall, like not their approach shot, sorry, their layup, almost getting their layup like wet, and it's in long rough in the river that I believe is right behind Nick right now, if you're watching on video. Um, it was pretty incredible to watch the guys try to navigate that wind. And there's like really nothing blocking the wind other than grandstands here or there. I mean, and even on 16, this will be my last bit of the rant, I promise. But on 16, they were talking about how the grandstands kind of block wind and you can't feel it that well. And 16 is a par three, and you saw guy after guy go 40 yards long left. Like Ludwig Oberg got a free drop from the grandstands. There was a couple different guys who, in the last few groups, just absolutely hammered something like literally 40 yards long, carried the green by a lot, carried it up onto the hill where the grandstands are. Ludwig was actually in the grandstands. His ball came to rest under somebody's chair. Um, and that's on a par three where they're hitting iron. Like that just doesn't happen very often when you're not at courses like Pebble Beach where you got the swirling winds and really exposed surface. Like we're in San Antonio, Texas, but those Texas winds really pick up, and they were very, very intense on Sunday, and they were really exposing who was sharp and who was not. And JJ Spawn was quite sharp with the approach play, even in the wind.
Yeah, I think just getting into course setup before we go into the actual results. I think every tournament, with the exception of the Masters, because it's holy and should not be touched. I think just the way TPC San Antonio is set up, of like its two finishing holes are a drivable par four and or at least the way it finished on Sunday was like a drivable par four and then a par five as well. I think that is an incredible course setup, and I think whenever a tournament features a drivable par four, it is so it is so entertaining because I think that you need at least a birdie on a par. Like a birdie is a par, and a par is essentially a bogey when it comes to a drivable par five. And so I think that just makes it so incredibly competitive and so entertaining to watch. And I think just the way you look at how it ended up with JJ Spawn, like just it adds so much to a tournament. And I think, obviously a lot was said about the wind and the weather this week was probably not ideal. I think a lot of people were unhappy and somewhat disappointed, but I think just the way it ended up working out with hole 17 was just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, what WM Phoenix Open has the same thing. I mean, even at Oakmont last year, where JJ Spawn won his U.S. Open, I think it's the 17th that's drivable there too, right? Is it not the 17th? But the uphill par four that kind of dog legs left, but you can also just take driver well out over, and he drove the green there too on Sunday.
Right.
So obviously he's got a penchant for doing these things, but yeah, I mean, Eagles that 17th. He also makes par on the 18th. Obviously, he was playing with the lead, so maybe his approach is a little different. But again, like Kyle was saying, he's done nothing in 2026. He's somebody who I had as my prove me wrong guy going into the Valspar like 3 weeks ago, and he did not prove me wrong. He was six over and missed the cut at the Valspar, and then to turn around and do this was really really impressive. I mean, just looking at his like profile, I guess you could say his approach play hasn't been bad. Like on average, his approach play has been above average, like over the season. He's been hitting the ball well. You could say it was his putting that really like turned around and helped him today, but or not today, this weekend. But his approach play on Saturday and Sunday, or at least on Sunday. Obviously, it's tough to really discern because played some of his round on Saturday morning and then the rest of it on Sunday, so it's hard to draw that line necessarily. But on Sunday, certainly, his approach play was something we have not seen him do this year. I mean, he gained three shots in approach in his third round, which again spanned 2 days, and then two shots in his more than two shots in strokes gained in approach in his fourth round. So he was just super sharp. Really, the only one of very few guys who were actually like peppering pins in this weather. You just really didn't see much of it at all. And I'm itching to get to the guys who really struggled with it a little bit. But I will say maybe there's something to that big old lab putter that JJ Spaun uses that looks like an alien spaceship.
Oh, I
Um,
don't know.
it's I know I will say, and you guys can all judge me for this. I did get a new putter. It is a lab
Okay.
putter. It is not the spaceship lab putter. They just came out with a heel mounted putter for the first time. I made some long putts when I was down in Florida. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying I'm tour bound, but it might have changed everything for me. So
So it must be the putter, right? It's got to be.
it's got to be the putter. It wasn't me. I can tell you that much. But it is funny that nobody uses that on tour. Like it's all you have so many mallets, you have so many of those spiders, the Odysseys, like all that stuff. You just don't see the big alien center. You see a couple of them, but you don't see a lot of those big center mounted lab putters, which is like I feel like if you were to go to like, a country club and play with the three, four, five handicappers around that country club, you'd see a ton of lab putters, but on the PGA Tour, you just really don't see much of it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Um, I don't
I don't
know.
think there's
It's
that much to it,
definitely,
but
yeah. I know there's definitely been like the mallets are sort of taking over the putting game right now. I saw people calling for Spieth to switch to a mallet this week, which
to
would
see
be
a
very
blade,
interesting. Yeah, he's one of the last few stragglers with blades.
Fitz,
But
Hideki, I think they're both blades, right? Those two.
yeah,
I
and
think
then
Fitz just went to a blade recently. I don't know. I might be making
yes,
stuff up.
I think Fitz goes back and forth from what I've seen.
Yeah.
But
Anyways,
yeah, interesting conversation for another time.
So how about the guy who again was looking up at JJ Spaun from he finished T2 here, Robert McIntyre, who was fantastic on Thursday and Friday, just played awesome. And then, it's just God, I just hate how the weather kind of derailed this, but
Yeah,
he's playing pretty well.
the 64. I think I wrote this in our notes. The 64 on Friday might be one of the best rounds I can remember watching. It was just like every iron shot was perfect, and the ones that weren't perfect, he would make a par putt from 12 feet, and it didn't look like he was breaking a sweat. He just couldn't really make a mistake. It was really really cool to watch, and like you said, Kyle, like he is playing really well going into Augusta, which is historically favored lefties. If that means anything to you, but at the same time, he also kind of lost it when the weather picked up, which is not what you'd expect from a guy who won the Scottish Open and who is from England and tends to play really well in these conditions. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna kind of, unless you guys have something particular you want to say about Robert McIntyre, I'm gonna marry him in with Ludwig Oberg a little bit because I
yeah,
thought
go
their
for it.
Sundays were pretty
Ludwig,
similar.
I mean,
It's
Ludwig is like his own thing where
he's a little,
he's got something going on, man.
it's a
He's
little more
just
extreme.
yeah, he's just not he is penciling himself as not a finisher.
Well, that's I'll warm up to it, but that's where I'm going to culminate pretty much is that again, this is not the first time this year we've seen him lose it and have a really hard time finding it again. like great golfers can lose it for a couple holes and kind of refine it during the round, or at least
Sure.
adjust to make their misses work for them.
Yeah.
We saw it at the Players, and we saw it again here. He just didn't have it on Sunday, and he couldn't find it. I mean, he actually on Saturday he came out, made two early birdies, given one of them was a wild chip in from a bad iron shot on the third hole. But then the round gets called. They come back out Sunday. He quickly gives one back on the first hole they play on another par three, and it was very similar to the Players where he just didn't have it, and it was clear that he wasn't going to find it. And he was missing left, he was missing right, he was missing short, he was missing long with drivers, with irons. Like none of it was put together. Um, and Robert McIntyre, maybe to a slightly lesser degree, had a similar issue going on. But with the Ludwig conversation, I guess the question I have that I want to pose to both of you is that is it time to start like worrying? I mean, obviously the Valero is a smaller scale event. It's not necessarily a make or break, but the Players Championship he shoots 76 on Sunday with the same kind of thing. And even if you go back, and this is maybe grasping at straws a little bit, but if you go back to his last two Masters, again, two top 10 finishes, very much in the running, but he hasn't broken par on the back nine in either time. He's had some really costly bad shots, and both times he was in pretty good contention to win at one point. I believe last year, correct me if I'm wrong, he was either tied for the lead at one point after Rory doubled
Yeah,
13 or
he
one
briefly
off. I
led,
think he was. Yeah, I think he briefly led. He
very
briefly
briefly.
led alongside Rio Hisatsune this week. Both guys faded. And then obviously the Players he carried a lead, and then Masters 2 years ago when it was him and Colin that were trying to put pressure on Scotty. He was also in a decent position at one point before he made a double bogey on 11, I believe, and Scotty kind of made some birdies to run away with it. And I'm not saying if he doesn't make that double bogey he wins or anything like that, but he hasn't been able to step up in those bright lights. And you can talk to me about I believe that the Genesis he won when it was at Torrey Pines last year. Do I want to really give that 1,000% of credit? Maybe not. That's a conversation for another day. But like you were saying, Kyle, I guess that's a really, really long-winded way of asking the question. Like, is this a problem? Like, are we slapping the not a finisher label on him yet? I mean, he's had such a successful career, but at the same time, it's like could have been a lot more successful on a couple of occasions.
See, I'm gonna challenge you on this one. I'm
Okay.
gonna argue that it's not alarm bells just yet. I think if the Players didn't happen, we would not even be having this conversation as to whether or not he's a finisher now, which I guess that is how these questions start is by
Yeah.
prior events. So I guess I'm not contradicting myself, but at the end of the day, I think I'm not gonna. I mean, sure, you can say what you want about the Players. Like that was a total collapse. That was a finishing issue, and I will call it that. You can make the argument for the Masters as well. I do think there is some merit to that. Although I think at the end of the day, every Masters has like those one or two people
Yeah.
that will make it interesting on Sunday, but they're not going to win the tournament. And I think Ludwig
Mhm.
was one of those both years.
Yeah. That's
I
fair.
think in terms of Valero, I think I'm not, and granted this is totally speculative. This is not I haven't read anything that he said that can confirm this, but I really do think that because it was so close to the Masters and also just the weather, I think it was probably very easy for them to get checked out. And I think just like not I guess in my personal experience, if I'm hitting it bad, like if I'm at the range and then I start hitting it bad, I will just stop hitting altogether because I know I'm capable of hitting it better and I don't want to get locked into bad habits or anything like that, just trying to overly correct what's going on. And I think I could definitely see a lot of these players, like when it comes to how windy it was, I could definitely see them not trying to like put themselves in bad spots and like get used to anything that they're gonna like basically pick up any defense habits that they're gonna have to break in the next week at Augusta in a completely different setting. And so I would be more inclined not he's not innocent. I definitely think if this happens again, we will absolutely be referencing Valero in terms of this argument. But I think I'm more inclined to write it off than I was the Players because of the weather, if that makes sense.
It does. It does make sense. I guess my counter is that, and I guess I understand what you're saying. my counter would be that everybody's playing in the same weather, and I guess my counter to my own counter there is that yeah, well, but some people just also care a lot more about like guys like JJ Spaun, Andrew Putnam, Michael Kim are gonna really try to push to persevere in that situation, maybe more than Ludwig Oberg will, considering Ludwig
Yes.
knows he's in the Masters, he knows what he's capable of, and he's coming off a streak where just looking at his last three results, it's T3 at the Arnold Palmer, T5 at the Players, T5 at the Valero. Um, so I guess I understand what you're saying. I'm probably not ringing alarm bells yet, but I think like, if this is an image that came to my head and I don't think it actually makes any sense. I don't know if bells are really like this, but if I'm not like ringing the bell, but I'm like holding the rope that rings the bell and I'm like getting ready.
Yes.
I'm
Okay.
okay, I'm warming up. I'm getting the arm ready to swing
Right.
this puppy and make it ring
Doing your
because
preliminary stretches.
yeah, exactly. Working the shoulders out a little bit, getting down into my athletic stance to get ready to ring that bell. But it is a thing. I mean, it's for some, I think what strikes me about it more and maybe why it stands out to me more is that like he comes off as so robotic as somebody that like none of this stuff should affect, that he should just like there's so little, there's nothing wrong with his swing. Like everything's so cookie cutter about Ludwig Oberg in his golf life. I don't know what he's doing outside of golf, but in his golf world, like everything is so cookie cutter that it's so hard for me to believe that anytime something goes wrong and is consistently wrong, I'm like, why can't he just fix it? He
Well,
seems like he should be able to just fix it.
I think that's one of the criticisms of him. I was reading an article on, I think HITC, which is, I think, a European outlet, and it was talking about the Sky Sports commentators during the round, talking about Ludwig not looking like he was upset. I think one of the
Yeah,
quotes they had is, "This is just his fifth green hit in regulation today. I don't know about you, but I'd be livid with that." Um, I was about to say it's almost as if you'd want to see him a bit more irritated, and that was John Swiatek and Colehart
yeah.
commentating for Sky Sports, Andrew Colehart, and I think that's the thing. And I hate doing that, honestly. Like I don't like Bill Simmons, known as the body language doctor. I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's it's it serves right sometimes, but when you're the man in the arena, and especially in golf, when you're just out there on an island, you have your caddy there, but it's just you. Different guys deal with stuff in different ways, and it's like revisionist history to go back after you play terribly and say, "Oh, well, he should have been more upset then." It's like, well, a lot of the times we praise people for not getting upset in the moment, and that's how you push through adversity. So, I see both sides of your guys' arguments, and I think, you both make good points.
I think, yeah, an interesting, that brings an interesting point to my mind, at least that, and kind of like what I was saying about the fact that he has such like a robotic cookie cutter swing that it seems like nothing that should go wrong. And I by no means think I am able to read Ludwig's mind or understand where he's at, but like an interesting hypothesis could be that like he is so confident in his swing and so comfortable that, if he pulls two drives left in a row, he's not going to adjust and start playing the pull. He's going to say, well, no, my swing's good. My swing is not the problem. Even
I
if,
can
because
see
day to
that.
day, your swing can change a little bit, right? But like, and some guys will say, okay, I've just got the draw today. Like I'm just hitting a draw today. Let me line up down the right side of the fairway and play it. But if you're so confident in your swing that you're just like, no, like it's not my swing. That was a one-time thing. I'm going to line up down the middle again or line up here.
Yeah.
And then you just keep doing it. So I can see that a little bit. Again, this is all conjecture, hypothesis, whatever you want to call it. This is us kind of trying to pinpoint an issue in one of the greatest golfers in the world's games. But it is some. I mean, again, we're not trying to talk too much about the Masters, but with the Masters around the corner, this is the type of thing that I'm like, man, if he's top three, like, do I really think he's gonna? Like, it's the difference between picking somebody to be top 10 at the Masters and picking somebody to win the Masters. Like
I agree.
I have
Yeah.
full faith that Ludwig will be around, but do I
Yeah.
really think he's gonna like close this out and take a
Yeah,
green jacket?
a bit
Like
hesitant now.
there are guys like I don't know. Maybe I'm playing Homer here just with people I really like, but just to play the Players Championship card, if you've got Ludwig and Cam Young tied for the lead, like who are you thinking is gonna take that? I'm probably taking Cam Young right now. I mean, there's a little bit more variability in Cam Young's game, but we've also seen him do it recently.
You have the battle of not happy enough and not angry enough. It's a perfect
Yeah,
storm.
yeah. Now I know who you'd take if I said Matt Fitzpatrick or Jordan Spieth, so I was trying to find a happy medium there. But
I
either
mean,
way, like,
if you think that his performance this week
oh
has
No,
boy,
he
altered
doesn't
my
deserve to be
confidence,
talked about.
save it for Wednesday.
He
Save it for
doesn't
Wednesday.
even, no, he doesn't deserve to be talked
By the way,
about.
Nick, it super should have altered your confidence. Like, it
Yeah,
really
I
should have.
mean, come on.
Uh,
we got it out of the way, and we are ready for Augusta now.
yeah. Well, anyways,
Well, you
outside of
better.
Ludwig,
I was gonna just say, enjoy watching Jordan on Thursday and Friday because that's gonna be the only time you'll get to watch him.
I
man, I'm gonna be
mean,
the mediator to a war on this on this podcast on Wednesday.
maybe you need to like be up early and make sure you're on for our like midway episode
Yeah,
because
that Friday
there might
one
be some blows.
could be ugly.
Oh
There could
boy.
be some tears shed.
Yeah, seriously. Well, outside, so those were really the two finishes that kind of caught my attention. Again, I skipped past Bobby McIntyre a little bit, but he had a similar issue where he basically came out Sunday. It was clear that he wasn't going to be playing the same style of golf he played Thursday, Friday. Just didn't have it, didn't close. And his shot on 18 was one of the worst golf shots I've ever seen a professional golfer hit. It
Uh,
was.
the wind was
I
just
don't
not
blame him. I
fair.
know. I don't blame him because you hit the tiniest draw into that wind, it goes 9,000 yards that direction.
Yeah.
But just like visually, just watching that, like he's hitting a wood and as an approach, as a layup on a par five, just a straight duck hook into mud. Ends up making par, misses it by one, but and I get it. He needed the birdie to get into a playoff, so I don't blame him for pushing. But outside of those guys, I mean, I was bummed to see Ryo Hisatsune fade a little bit. We talked about this last week. I think, unless my math is right, uh, I have two thoughts going on in my head, and they're not conflicting, but bouncing around a little bit. But unless my math was wrong, which I don't think it was, he could have gotten into the Masters with like a T4. He ends up 55th in OWGR. It's all average, so it's all very tight or very close. But I believe a T4, T3 would have gotten him in. And obviously, like we said, at one point he did share the lead with Ludwig Oberg. Ended up just not being able to stick it out through the wind. And the only reason I think my math might be wrong is because they didn't talk about it one single time on the broadcast, which blows my mind. So I'm hoping I'm wrong and my math was wrong and that they just knew that and didn't bring him up because the alternative of my math being right and them not bringing up the fact that Ryo Hisatsune was in the top five for most of this Sunday, and just not mentioning the fact that that had the opportunity to get him into the Masters. I'll rerun the math later. It's all like last 2 year events averaged out, based on the strength of the field. But at least last week before the event, it looked like he could get to the threshold of around 2.01 with a top four or top three. So again, I hope I'm wrong because otherwise I'd be really disappointed in the fact that they just did not mention the fact that he was chasing a Masters berth. Um, but nonetheless, I still am very high on Rio Setsune. Again, super young, 23 years old,
He's good,
and
man. He's a good
he's really
golfer.
good. He's really good. I
Yeah,
think
absolutely.
I think these conditions that we saw on Sunday are going to be tough for him to really like compete in the way because he's an aggressive player. So I think when you have a lot of adverse weather, it's a lot harder to fire at pins the way that he tends to. But I mean, you get him any tournament, you get him hot, you get the weather conditions kind of calm. He can run away and make a ton of birdies really fast. So it's going to be exciting to watch him. I would not be surprised if he knocks off a win at some event this
Yeah,
year.
I think a year from now we will be talking about him as a Masters guy, and he will firmly be in the field, I'm sure by then. And I mean, the next few years, he's winning a few tournaments. He's just too good not to. Especially,
I
I mean,
wouldn't be
only
surprised. Yeah.
23. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like you're saying, like you get these guys that can get hot. Like you just need a week. You just need it doesn't like course fits matter, but like with guys like Ryo Satsune, like they don't matter quite as much to me. It's just like I don't know
Right.
if he gets hot and he gets that feeling going, like what he's gonna shoot 2 rounds of 65 and the other two might be 69 or 70, but it's probably gonna be enough to win a golf tournament.
Yeah. Who else?
I don't know.
Uh,
That was kind of I mean I don't know. Does anybody want to talk about Michael Kim? Just because Twitter sphere, great
yeah, no,
guy of Michael
I think
Kim.
he was definitely probably it really was his best finish of the season. Tied for second. He was one of those guys that had he birdied 18, we'd be having a very different conversation, most like. But
Gave
I
it
don't
the
know.
best run too. That bunker shot was pretty good.
Yeah, no,
He
I saw the
almost
replay.
rolled it
That
in.
was really close. But yeah, I feel like this was more so just kind of like, oh, Michael Kim is at the top of the leaderboard. And I feel like that's, I don't want to go like in too deep of a dive on Michael Kim, but that does kind of seem like his MO is just like randomly popping up in tournaments. And I don't know. I feel like he's one of those like I really hate to lump him in with like a Wesley Bryan type thing, but I feel like he's someone
Mm.
that is more known because of his social media presence rather than his actual play. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean I don't wanna
I
like
mean,
make that generalization, but at the same time, I was a bit surprised to see him on the leaderboard.
yeah, I think I'd be shocked if you weren't. I mean, I'm just looking at his pit, like, because I remember when he really became a hot topic of conversation was around this time last year, honestly, or like a month ago last year. This is 2025, T2 at the Waste Management, T13 at the Genesis, T13 at the Mexican Open, T6 at the Cognizant, and fourth at the Arnold Palmer in five straight events. And that's kind of when, he had that run of play going and everybody got really, really high on him really quickly. And then, he made one top 20 in his next like 14 PGA Tour events, 15 PGA Tour events before a 10th at the BMW. But you never know. I mean, he gets on one of these hot runs, like you never know what could happen. But I think I agree and I disagree. I agree that he's more no. I mean, even every time he's on the broadcast, the first thing they mention is that, like they were talking about it this week too. They're like, so do you think Michael Kim's as funny in person as he is on Twitter? Like they're like going on some diatribe about like, oh well, like most people aren't as funny on social, or like they're either so funny on social media or funny in person, like not both. So like I'm curious, what do you think he's like? Why he's T2? Like I don't know. Let's focus on the golf game. He's like shooting a 67 in really windy conditions, whatever it was.
I mean,
Um,
he's just like there's not that many guys who do what he does, so it's like of course he's going to be known as social media guy because
yeah,
he's like I don't even consider him like funny. He's giving like course notes and what he thought
yeah,
about
Right,
the play
exactly.
that week and stuff like he goes
yeah.
into big
It's
detail on
not.
all these
It's
tweets
not
and
funny
stuff
stuff.
like
I mean, even yesterday, he's just like getting on a plane to go to the Masters, like doing and
yeah,
answering questions, like
yeah,
leave comments with questions, and he just goes through and fires off answers.
yeah,
Yeah,
Um,
it's
so
definitely great for the tour. I think having someone
for
like him, it
sure.
really kind of breaks the fourth wall a little bit and gives you that
Yeah.
access that, we haven't
And
seen
it's
before.
And it's just
definitely,
go it just goes to show how tough it is to compete and be consistently good on tour with how many good golfers there are. Like all these guys are good and him tweeting or whatever doesn't, take away from his game. That doesn't affect him either
No,
way. You
not
know
at
what I
all.
mean? I just hate
yeah.
that dialogue.
Oh,
But he's a really good golfer. So it was cool to see him finish like that.
yeah.
Will you
I
want to talk about Thor Bjornsson or
yeah. I'll roll this up pretty quickly because I don't have a ton to say, to be honest. I think. I'll roll up my prove me wrong guy, Michael Thorbjornsen, with the other. We talked about Riho Satsune already, but the other guy who did not really put up any sort of a fight to get to the Masters, and that was Ricky Fowler.
Hmm.
Ricky Fowler was in a similar boat to Rio. He needed a really, really good fit, like a top three, four finish, something like that, I believe. Again, check my math to get into the Masters. Michael Thorbjornsen did not need that much. Again, according to my math, it was like a T10 to like top 10 or top 12. He was sitting at 54th in OWGR. He did not need like a magical run or whatever. He was probably, I don't know, I didn't look at the odds, but he was probably not that much of a long shot at all to be in the top 10 to finish at that level. I imagine he was probably around plus 200 or something like that. But misses the cut with a 70 and a 74, just didn't even give himself the opportunity to put up a fight, which was pretty disappointing. I talked about last week, the reason I had him as a prove me wrong guy is because he's done what we've, quasi talked about Ludwig Oberg doing, where Michael Thorbjornsen has found himself in position at the WM, at the Players, at a couple different events to win, and really, or at least cement his status in the Masters. And he just has not stepped up to the plate when he's had that opportunity. And I was hoping that this week he would give himself that opportunity and, show us one way or another whether or not he can step up to the plate. And in some ways that he did, I guess, because he just completely whiffed. Shot a 74 in the second round that really took him out. 2 under in the first round is not terrible. 74 in the second. Just he was errant in approach. He was errant kind of everywhere. Didn't really have it. And then Ricky Fowler also missed the cut. So it kind of disappointing. And I think when we previewed this tournament last week and we talked about these guys, we all agreed pretty hand or you know pretty we all agreed, whatever. I don't know what word I'm trying to find, but we all agreed very solidly that Ryo Satsune was the one of those three that we would take to probably get close and make this a challenge to get into the Masters. I think we all mentioned that, and we were all right in that. He was the only one who even gave it sort of a shot, who at any point was in position to do so. So again, I don't have a ton to say. I don't want to waste a ton of time on Michael Thorbjornsen and Ricky Fowler missing the cut. Just disappointing that, these are, on one hand, Ricky Fowler's seasoned veteran should be able to, quell any nerves. And maybe for him, it was just a run of poor play. Michael Thorbjornsen has every talent in the book to be able to get himself inside the top 10 here. So I have to believe some of that is pressure, is nerves, is knowing that with a good performance you do what you came here to do and get into the Masters. But to miss the cut and just not even give yourself a shot is pretty disappointing.
I think, two players as well that I want to highlight real quick before we wrap this up. I think another player that fits that mold is Tony Finau. He
hmm
needed wasn't he leading after day one too? Like he was really far up the
Yeah.
leaderboard, I thought. And then
He was
I didn't
around on
even
Sunday too, briefly.
briefly until he fired a six
Yeah,
over 78 and just completely
yeah.
dejected from the tournament. I think he was um, five over at the turn and then played the back nine at one over, which I guess is better, but just overall, someone else that, with the talent, it's the same thing we say about Tony Finau every year, that he's way too talented to be having the results that he's having. And then it's just, I don't even know. Like it's unfortunate that he's going to miss the Masters, especially considering how talented he is. But given the run of play he's had, I'm not surprised. And then in terms of, we'll tie the bow with a very wholesome, or I guess in this case, an almost wholesome, was Sudarshan Yalamaraju almost had a T10 again.
Ugh.
And
Bogey finish. Oh,
I know, like
brutal.
you said, I think was it yesterday? You're like, oh,
Yeah.
Sudarshan's in the top 10, like sneaky top 10. And I said, that's what he does. Is just you look at the leader. Oh my God, he's in the top 10. Like you don't expect it. You don't even know it's happening. It just happens. And then obviously went bogey to finish one shot out of the top 10, T14. But um, just a great run of play. And I definitely think, not Masters hopeful by any means, but I definitely think in a year's time we will be keeping Sudarshan in the same level of Ryo Hisatsune. Of at that point, I feel if we go at this time next year, I think I'm pretty confident that both of those two will have PGA Tour winner next to their names.
I hope so. I think to first, I guess to not answer your question, but yeah, I hope so for Sudarshan. I'm a little bit more hesitant to expect a ton out of him, considering I expected and considering just like he came out of absolutely nowhere. And that's not to say he can't sustain this run of play, but we just talked about Michael Kim's like last year, his five straight tournaments where he randomly was top 13 every single time at some big events, including the
Actually, yeah,
players,
good point. Good point.
where like Rio feels more sustainable. But you give me three more good Sudarshan finishes, and I will be right there on board. I mean, he seems to have it. It's just a matter of if it's consistent or not, because he also was T54. He went his first three of his first four events were a cut T54, T56 at smaller events like the WM, the Farmers, the MX. So, but he's obviously turned it on. I'm a little more hesitant to give him a ton of credit, but also to go back to Tony a little bit, I think it's hard to really like rewrap what happened here because of the way they had guys still out there in round four while other guys were finishing round three. I think people were starting round four while like Bobby McIntyre was on the 15th hole of his third round, just the way the rain worked out and where they were getting guys off the tees. Tony Finau came into the final round, quote unquote final round. Things changed. It wasn't exactly this way, but he was four shots back after round three, if you like sum it up that way. And I remember seeing him up around there when he made three birdies at the end of his third round to like kind of get himself back into position, and then just immediately threw it away to Nick, like you said, with that front nine, five over front nine, including a double bogey on a par five. Just yeah, I don't know what to do with Tony Finau. He's kind of, this maybe is cruel. He's kind of falling into the Michael Kim camp for me a little bit, where you just like kind of look up and you're like, oh, Tony Finau's doing stuff. Okay, I mean, I think the difference, I guess, is when I see Tony Finau up there, I have a little bit more expectation. Like when he's up there, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, this is a guy that I think maybe can actually close this out. Even though he like barely closes things out and didn't for like 6 straight years there after he won the Puerto Rico. But that's an exaggeration, but still. But in terms of like expecting anything from him going into tournaments, like that's kind of where I'm at this point. And, like I kind of don't I don't expect much from him. But when he is up there, when he's playing really well, I'm like, okay, yeah, like if he can do this. But
Right. And I think it's like the same. He seems like so genuine of a guy that he's so easy to
oh,
root
he
for.
rocks. Yeah, he
But at the
rocks.
same time, it's like I think there was a lot of that discourse of, when there was that clip that went viral of him like dancing on the live, or not live, the TGL, big difference. The tee box there when he was like dancing before he's hitting the shot. And I think everybody was saying like just Tony Finau fatigue is what they had. Like just seeing this guy like constantly pumped into your feed, and there's just no stats to back it up anywhere. And it's
Yeah.
tough to root for Tony Finau in 2026 just because like his family is wholesome. I remember I walked past his oldest son in Phoenix, just like
Yeah.
walking around.
His wife
That
and their
dude is
kid were
a
standing outside the media tent for a second there.
that dude is a tank. Like that if
Yeah.
that kid plays golf, like that kid is gonna hit the ball very far.
One of his kids is
But
really good, I think. I think one of
I
his
think that's
kids
who
is
it
like a
is.
junior
Yeah,
player. It's the eldest.
I think so. But yeah, he's a good dude, like great family, but at the same time, like no PJ Tour wins in a very long time. And so it's really tough to and I feel like these conversations were even what we were having back when he was winning. Like, okay, even when he was winning, it's like, okay, what's next? Because he's clearly too good to be just like doing all of this. Like, when's he gonna take that next step? And it's just unfortunate at this stage in his career to be having these conversations year after year.
Well, I think this is a fine place to tie it up. I don't want to spend a ton of time, but I think Tony, the one thing when Tony Finau popped up when he was on the leaderboard and they were showing him a couple times, I was like, oh, I forgot that he's a Jordan brand ambassador, that he rocks all Air Jordan.
It's
Like what a
kind of hard to
rant!
forget
Like
when you look at him.
I know, but like because it always for some reason I'm just always struck that it's like Tony Finau is the Air Jordan ambassador on the PGA Tour. Are there any other ones? I know Harold Varner the third was one. He's on Live now.
Right.
Was there anyone else? Is there anyone else that is the Jordan brand ambassador? Like I don't know.
And I,
To
and I
me,
I remember like
I
a
would
couple Masters ago, Phil was wearing Jordans at Augusta, and I did not know how to feel about
didn't
that.
know how to
But
process that. Well, anyways, yeah, that's I again like Tony Finau is one of the best guys on tour. I feel like nobody wishes poorly on Tony Finau,
not
but
at all.
it is also a big disparity between actual results and fandom, I feel like.
I agree. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But yeah, moving on. I guess I feel like this was not to drag Valero, but this is very much just we're talking about this out of obligation. Just get us to Masters Week. Let's move
I know we're
on.
so excited
And
now. It was a
this,
great tournament, but yeah, it was one of those ones where you look at the leaderboard and there's only like four guys that I feel like really warrant a ton of conversation.
yeah. So let's move on.
Yeah. All right. So, around the world here, the other couple tournaments that went on this past week, the LPGA Tour was at Shadow Creek in Vegas. Lauren Coughlin won. Also saw Nelly Korda finish tied for second, which is just what she does. What were some takeaways you guys had from this?
I think you said it. I think it's kind of similar to the Augusta National Women's Amateur in that the story doesn't really lie with Lauren Coughlin. I mean, she played fantastic for the record shot, the low round of the day on both Thursday and Friday to give herself a 5 shot lead heading to the weekend. It ended up only being two strokes over Nelly Korda going into Sunday, but Nelly shot a three over. She was actually four over par until she birdied the 18th, her 72nd hole to get it back to three over and finish tied for second. But I mean, this is one of the weirder the reason I say part of it is a Nelly Corda story rather than a Lauren Coughlin story. Um, that Nelly has played four events and has not finished worse than T2. This was her worst result of the entire year was the T2 because the other times she's been solo second or first. In four events, she went first at the Hilton Grand Vacations Tournament of Champions, second at the Fortinet Founders Cup, second at Ford Championship, and now T2 at the Aramco Championship. And I don't know what to feel about that because, like, part of me is like, wow, that's incredible. And then part of me is like, oh, why is she not? Why aren't a couple more of these turning into wins? But I think my main takeaway is Nelly is going to win a major championship this year. We're not that far away from the Chevron. We are 3 weeks away from the Chevron, I believe, the first major on the LPGA tour. Um, and you gotta assume with the way Nelly's playing that she's gonna not. If you're drafting players to knock off a major championship this year, I gotta assume Nelly's pick one or two. I don't know who else. Maybe you pick Gino Titakun over Nelly, just based on world ranking, but she hasn't been playing that well. Um, so I don't know. I'm curious to hear what you guys think because just looking at it's kind of the same Scotty problem we tend to have, right? Where we're like, well, he's playing horrific, like he's not finishing the way we think he should, and he's like finishing fifth or sixth. And it's a little different, obviously, but because I don't, it's a weird thing for me just seeing a first and 3 seconds and being like, well, I kind of feel like one should be at least two first place, two wins there. I don't know. Um,
Yeah, I don't
I don't
know.
know.
I feel like it's just one of those where, like you said with Scotty, like I think he said from the start that if you just look at his data golf page or just look at his stats and just put it on any other golfer, you'd be like, oh yeah, this person's on a roll.
Yeah, one hundred
Like
percent.
this is not when you're dealing with someone of that. Like obviously, if she starts playing like Scotty has recently, then I think you could start asking questions. But I definitely think this is one of those where I'm not overly concerned.
No, I agree.
Yeah,
But it is just a funny thing. Go ahead, Kyle. Sorry.
yeah, for sure. No, I agree. Could be getting greedy. Yeah, weird. Gino 6 over for the tournament, which
I
you
know.
don't
I
you
was
don't
I was
see
literally
often from her.
I was just pulling up her page on LPGA just to look at her results because obviously she started really well. T7 at the Hilton Grand Vacations Tournament of Champions, won the Honda LPGA. Since then, T31, T14, T50, T17. So not playing her greatest golf, but I think it's going to be we're going to wait to talk about it until we get through the Chevron probably and see what happens at a major championship venue. When the stakes get really high. So, but worth monitoring. I mean, with the hype that I mean, the number one ranked golfer in the world for women, Gina Titakun, like just not really stepping up the way some of her co or like counterparts in that top 10 are, like Nelly Korda, Hyoju Kim obviously has been performing really well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I wonder if that the win she had, we had talked about it when it happened. It was such like an emotional thing,
yeah, in
and
Thailand,
and
yeah.
such a big deal for her to do that in Thailand, and maybe just natural letdown after that. We've seen a
Yeah.
little bit, so something
Yeah,
to
that's why I'm
something to
not gonna
follow.
I'm not gonna say anything yet. We'll wait.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Corn Ferry Tour. Jeremy Gandon won over there. What do we have to say about this one?
Sick finish, actually. Mitchell Meissner, who is actually the older brother of Mac Meissner, I believe, McClure Meister, as we recently found out, entered the clubhouse lead or entered the clubhouse with the lead at 21 under. He missed an 8 foot birdie putt on the final hole to shoot 66. And he had come into Sunday two strokes back of the lead, which was Jeremy Gandon and Ian Gilligan. It was a super crowded leaderboard, and it finished a super crowded leaderboard too. But coming into Sunday, 8 players were within two strokes of the lead. That's including the leaders. So you had two players at 16 under, and then six more players within a shot or two of them. But so Jeremy Gannon walked onto the 16th green on Sunday at 19 under. I don't believe Mitchell Meissner was in the clubhouse at that point quite yet. I think he was probably on his way. He was playing a couple groups in front. But he walks onto the green at 19 under. He had just made a three putt bogey from 27 feet, which was pretty gross. He missed a 4 foot par putt. just
Oof.
grimy stuff to drop back to 19 and not take himself out of the tournament. But I think when you make that three putt, if you're watching, you're kind of like, okay, check him off. I'm going to pay attention to these other guys now. Obviously, he was still within striking distance because he struck. He on the 16th par four, 190 yards out, hits it to 10 feet, makes the putt. The 17th, a 200-yard par three, 198-yard par three, if you want to get technical, stiffs it to 15 feet, makes that putt. On the 18th, he's now tied for the lead, needs a par to force a playoff. 12-foot on the approach, makes the putt, outright win over Mitchell Meissner. And Jay Card, the third, ends up tying Mitchell Meissner at 21 under as well. He was, I believe, playing between Meissner and Gandon. And then, yeah, so a pretty dramatic come from behind victory for Jeremy Gandon. It's his second Corn Ferry Tour victory. He won the Club Card Championship last year. That pushed him. He's had some other good results this year, so that got him all the way up to third in the Corn Ferry Tour standings. And as we know, the top 20 get a PGA Tour card. We are still early in the Corn Ferry Tour season, so not to don't take away anything from that. But obviously, sitting in third is a pretty place to be sitting at this point in
Agreed.
the season. So yeah, that's I mean Jeremy Gannon, Mitchell Meissner, Jay Card the third make up the top of the leaderboard. Miles Russell, I have a theory for you guys.
Ooh.
So Miles Russell, T62, 6 under par, played pretty well, made the cut 69, 68 Thursday, Friday, 74 on Saturday, 67 on Sunday. Do we think the news of his good friend Asterix Tally collapsing at Augusta National made its way back to Miles Russell on Saturday and affected his play to make him shoot a 74 on a day where the course average was a 69?
And
Otherwise he was consistent.
he just took the guilt with him for the entirety of the
I
round.
think I
Like if
like
he was on the
honestly,
bag, it wouldn't have happened.
if you were to lie detector test me right now, I would have to say yes and it would come up as true. Like I think there's something to that.
That's
Definitely
yeah. I
can.
mean, I don't know. Definitely, it was
It
a good
stands out
result for
anyway.
him.
It's yeah, 69, 68, 74, 67. Just
Yeah,
saying.
the timing of that is interesting,
A little
but
suspicious.
yeah. But
Yeah,
other
did
than
not get
that,
his top 15 right to play the next event, top 20 to
yeah,
play the next event. 15, I
top
think.
15 plays. Yeah, but definitely someone that to go 69, 68. We're gonna just blow Saturday. If that's his blow up at 16 years old is a 74, like kid's on the right path. Like,
Is he 16?
yeah, he is.
Is he actually?
Crazy.
That can't be right. Oh my,
He's either
he's
16 or
17
17.
actually.
Okay.
You're ridiculous. You're wrong, Nick. I'm just kidding. That is still just as ridiculous.
Yeah,
That one year did not make that much of a difference.
yeah, I think that's where we're like when we talked about Asterix Tally and like just going in depth on her mistake. It's like, guys, she's 17. She's gonna be back. Like she'll
Yeah.
there I the same thing with Miles Russell. Like we are going to be hearing that name for years to come.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Okay, how about a major update?
Yeah, it'll be quick. We talked a lot about this already. So one, it's just crazy to me that a week from now we'll be talking about if somebody relatively unexpected wins the RBC Heritage, I will be telling you all that they are in the 2027 Masters, which is
Wow.
crazy. But obviously, JJ Spaun wins the Valero Texas Open. He is not in need of any exemptions, having won the U.S. Open just last year. I believe I'm going to have to double check this really quickly. I believe his only wins are the U.S. Open and the Valero Texas Open twice, I think.
Huh.
Yeah, he's got two PGA Tour wins, the U.S. Open, and both of his two PGA Tour wins are the Valero Texas Open. So do with that what you will come Valero Texas Open season next year. But in terms of OWGR specifically, by the way, I was so psyched that they released the OWGR like yesterday evening at 7 p.m. or something instead of this morning. That was just very nice of them. So the OWGR came out. Four players who were not previously exempt made it into the Masters the through OWGR through being in the top 50, and it was all the people we actually haven't talked about Matt McCarty at all, but none of them played. Nikolai Højgaard was 36th, Daniel Berger 38th, Jake Knapp 42nd, Matt McCarty 49th. That might seem like Matt McCarty cut it really close. There was actually a decent amount of buffer. It would have been, I think he would have played if there was any possibility of him losing out to people. He had a little bit of a buffer there between him and 50 or 51. And then we already talked about these guys, but the three players in the field who were chasing the Masters with a high finish. did not convert. Michael Thorbjornsen missed the cut. He moved down to 58th in OWGR from 54th. Rio Satsune, T8, moved up to 55th. Ricky Fowler missed the cut, stayed at 65th. Yeah, starting next week, we will be talking 2027 Masters. We will be talking, I guess, PGA Championship is the next major to really turn your attention to. So the major update's going to change a little bit. We've been really focused on Masters, and now we're here. So that's
Wow,
exciting.
cannot wait.
Exciting it is. So on Wednesday, we will be talking strictly about the Masters. We will have our full
Yes.
Masters preview coming out there. Um, as always, you can find us on Twitter at Center Cup Pod, on Instagram and TikTok at centercup.pod. We will be churning out content there. Our picks obviously will come Wednesday as well for the Masters. We're going to have a few variations of picks that we'll have on Wednesday's episode. We're also going to try and do one on Friday post cut, just to kind of recap what we saw on Thursday and Friday for the Masters. So keep up to date with everything we've got going on. It's going to be a busy and awesome week here as we look towards Augusta, Georgia. Any final words, gentlemen?
Get me to Augusta, Georgia.
No, we made it. It's the week.
Here we go. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We will see you on Wednesday.